Okay. I think we're live now. Welcome, everybody. Obviously, I'm in my basement. You can probably hear the stools moving upstairs. We're still waiting on Dr. Irusi to join our group here. So in the meantime, I'm just going to talk about a couple things. Welcome to our live stream, our live update. I try to line up special guests for every stream. We had Dr. Irusi lined up for today. I'm sure he might be busy. He might have gotten called away. The last notice I got from him was he was going to join our stream. So, if that doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. We'll just continue, and hopefully Chris Stone will join us later in the stream. A couple of things that have been brought to my attention. First of all, I have an announcement from Kelly Garrett. She is our Gear Up advisor at Harding, and she wants to let the seniors know that if there's any questions about financial aid, award letters, or universities, Gear Up is there to help, and the letters can be confusing, so the Gear Up advisors are set up for virtual meetings so they can help you. So just reach out to your Gear Up advisors if you have any questions about financial aid, scholarship awards, letters from universities, any of those things. Gear Up is there for you, and I know they're set up to do live meetings so you can FaceTime with them, or Google Meets, or Zoom, or any number of video conferences. So contact Kelly Garrett or your Gear Up advisor, and they're able to help you with all the confusion, especially now, that's going on with everything that's happening. I'm going to guess that Dr. Irusi got busy and got called away for something, which, yeah, I get it. But I'll go over some of the things I wanted to talk to him about, and, if somebody wants to chime in, we have 5 or 6 people watching right now, and then, of course, we'll archive this stream to our YouTube channel, and you can watch it at your leisure. Again, for Telecom students, part of your grade or part of your participation is commenting or questioning things. And hi, Taj. Yes, you can share it. One of my students is on right now. Or just make a comment. If you have a question, send me a question about anything I talk about. And again, if I've got my Google Meets conference set up over here, ready to go if and when our guests arrive. So, in the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead with this stream. And and Taj, let other people know if you got your text message out or whatever, and you let other students know that they can get on this live stream as well and get credit. Again, this is participation for my students. It's not just good information, it's just a good way for you to participate in the class. So, having said all that, I think a lot of the problems, and one of the things I wanted to talk to the superintendent about, was the confusion and kind of mixed messaging that's coming from the state authorities. I look back at last week when we had, I was all set to do a drone video of the stadium lights, and I think right up until the day before, that was a go. In fact, we talked on last week's stream with Mrs. Musbach, the principal at Harding, and we were set. And we had talked about logistics in terms of what we could do to set up or to get the drone footage, and making arrangements for people that could drive by and see it. At the last minute, I think the sheriff's department, along with, I think it was the recommendation of the local health department, that said, let's not do that. So, and I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not casting any shade on anybody about any of this, but it's frustrating, particularly I think to the community, particularly our seniors, who I'm sure feel, ripped off about their senior year. And yeah, I think that's valid. I mean, I think it's okay to be upset about it. I think you need to understand, though, that the schools are trying, and, one of the things that, I would have liked to talk to Dr. Iries, and I will. I mean, eventually, and like I say, I'm sure he got called away. I think that happened 2 weeks ago with Todd Schneider. He was ready to go on live and then got called away. So, they have priorities. These guys are busy, and I'm sure the superintendent is extremely busy with taking care of things and answering questions and trying to get as much information as possible. And again, going back to my original statement, there's mixed messaging coming from the state, and it's hard for us as teachers and as administrators to give you the right answer, because one day it's one way and the next day it's something else, or they contradict each other. And you have the same thing with the federal level telling the state level, and there's a lot of mixed messaging. I don't think it's anybody's fault. I'm not trying to blame anybody for anything, because I think we're in a situation that is historical, and it's never happened before, so we don't have any guidelines that or any history to or precedent to make a go of this. There's no template. We're kind of making it up as we go, and so we understand the frustration. Okay, so parents, students, I know it's upsetting. I mean, all we can really do is empathize with you. I mean, we can't change it. I think that's the heart of this whole issue, is that the school is not the authority on your parameters in which you graduate. Under normal circumstances, yes, the school will set up the Coliseum, or set up the football field, or set up the cafeteria, or whatever. I mean, in normal circumstances, the school dictates how the graduation is going to be run. This is not normal circumstances. And so we're trying to follow guidelines that are mandated by an authority basically above us. So you got to understand, be upset. I get it. I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to be upset, but don't try not to blame or well, here's Chris Stone. Well, are you okay? Can you hear me? Okay,
yep, I can.
We'll get to you in a second. I was going to wrap this up, and then we'll chat. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. So we are joined by one of our guests. Anyway, so that was one of the things I wanted to talk to the superintendent about, and maybe Chris can help answer some of these questions too when we get to him. As far as the graduation goes, I think things are still kind of up in the air. We're still trying to make sense of what we are allowed or not allowed to do. So please stay tuned for that. And again, we're going to do these every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 o'clock to get you this information, because it is changing in real time. And pay attention to the Marion City Schools website. Pay attention to the Twitter feed, the Facebook feeds. We're trying to get that stuff out to you as soon as possible. Okay? Prom, as far as we know, is still on in June. But again, those things can change. Just stay tuned. Grades and semester averages. I think this came out pretty much. We kind of covered this last week. For the most part, your grade for the fourth quarter is a pass or incomplete. If you do the work and you communicate with your teachers, chances are you're going to pass. Okay? You're not going to receive a letter grade for the fourth quarter. However, it will translate to a letter grade on the semester average, because we did finish third quarter. So whatever your grade was third quarter is going to carry over into the semester average with a pass for the fourth quarter. So don't think that you can just not do the fourth quarter work. You need to do the work. It's just not going to be letter graded. It's going to be a pass or incomplete. The incomplete is a temporary grade, because if you don't finish that work or communicate with your teachers in the fall, when school resumes, you'll either be ineligible for activities, or it could be a 0, which means that incomplete turns into an F. So again, I can't emphasize this enough. Please make contact with your teachers. Do the assignments as best you can. If you do that, you will pass. Okay? You just do the best you can. Everybody's on your side. Everybody's trying to help you. Everybody's trying to get the work done. Okay? That's how grades are going to work. Not necessarily a letter grade, but you will get a semester grade, and you will get a pass incomplete for the fourth quarter. I'm going to bring in our communications director right now. This is Chris Stone. And let me do some switcheroo here. And And, oops, I got to change your name. Hold on. I had y'all set up for Dr. Irusi. Let me fix that real quick. I'll give you some levels here, too.
Okay. Sounds good.
And where is my... There we go. There. That's better. Welcome, Chris. Welcome to the live stream.
John. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm assuming Dr. Irusi got called away, so he was going to be on our stream. He did confirm with me, but again, I know Todd Schneider, same thing happened to him where he got swept up in another meeting, got called away. So no harm, no foul. Hopefully we'll catch up to Dr. Irusi later, and maybe you can help answer some of these questions that I had for him as well.
I will do my best to answer the questions that I can, John. Obviously, Dr. Irusi and our administrative team is in meetings pretty much all day long. Right. Given the situation that we're in. So I'll do the best that I can, and if I'm not in a position to answer it, I'll just say I can't answer. You can't answer that question.
Your guess is as good as mine. Right. and that's how I opened the show today. Was the frustration level that I know a lot of the kids have and a lot of the parents have is kind of the mixed messaging that's coming out from the state level. Just like what happened with the stadium, where we were all ready to go with that activity, and then at the last minute told no, don't do that, and letting people know that we're not the end all authority when it comes to making these decisions about graduation, about prom, about any kind of mass gathering. We aren't the authority. We have to follow the rules.
It's a community effort, John. Yeah. When you really sit back and think about it, we're not the only. I think the best way to say it, we're not the only player at the table. Right. We have to work with our community partners. Whether that be Marion Public Health, Marion Police Department, the Marion County Sheriff's Office, any of the partners that we have as a district. And at the end of the day, we ultimately, our goal is to keep everyone healthy and safe. I mean, public health is the number one concern right now on everybody's mind, and especially in Marion County, given what we're experiencing with, the outbreak at the prison. Right. So unfortunately, we all were excited throughout the entire district to really do something special, this past Friday. And, there were some legitimate concerns and we made a decision as with our community partners, to not do that. So, it's not, none of this is easy. Right. I don't know, John, I don't know how long you've been in education. I've been doing marketing and public relations work for the better part of 10 years. Right. And, I've been through a lot of crises and, helped manage the communications through a lot of it. And this is unprecedented. I don't know that we'll ever see this again in our life. Right. And we talked about, again, opening the show, I was talking about how we're all finding our way in this because there is no precedent for what's going on. And to be upset, I think, is perfectly reasonable. However, don't be upset at don't shoot the messenger kind of thing. I mean, we can't, we would, if we could, we would fix everything. And we just don't have that authority right now. I mean, we want to honor the student, our students, our class of 2020, our graduates. We want to honor them, in the right way and in the best way that we can. And unfortunately, given the situation right now, it's not going to look like what everybody's used to. And, that's not always necessarily a bad thing, to not always do what everybody else is doing. So, So anyway, I'm also privy to a lot of what's going on in the other schools. My wife works for the ESC,
And so she communicates with Winford, Pleasant, Ridgedale, So we kind of listen to everybody and kind of what's going on in the surrounding counties. And again, the state is making most of the calls. I mean, the governor comes on at 2:00 every day, and we kind of follow what his lead is. And you have to. And I'm sure they're going through the same thing with the federal side of it. Schools are state-run, by the way, everybody.
Yeah.
The federal government doesn't dictate to us what the state does. It's all interrelated, but again, we're a state agency. So anyway, I digress. Okay, so I covered some things about the grades and stuff. I think that's fairly clear now. I if somebody wants to shoot me a question, you're welcome to, but I don't think there's any more. I can't be any more clear about it. I mean, we're going with pass and complete. Get your work turned in. You'll probably I'm at least with my classes. I know if you do the work and participate in like these live streams and send me questions and comments, you'll pass. I mean, that's what this class is about. I'm not going to speak for other teachers and stuff, but I do know that, from talking to Mrs. Musbach and having our staff meetings, that the grading system for the fourth quarter, and only fourth quarter, not semester average. So the fourth quarter is a pass incomplete, not a letter grade. The semester will be a letter grade averaged with your third quarter grade that you did receive. So I think that's done. I think we can move on from that.
And John, if folks have questions about, how grading is going to be working, they can always visit the website.
Absolutely.
And there is a link there for our K-12 grading for families information, and it's broken down by, the elementary schools, by Grant, and then obviously by Harding.
Right.
So,
right.
We're trying the best we can to get the information out there and, get it into the hands of the families so that they are informed.
Right. And that's what I've been emailing my students at least every other day, if not every day. And I stress this to everybody else. Reach out to your teachers. I mean, they're waiting. They want to hear from you. And I know I'm speaking from Harding perspective because that's the world I'm in, but I know the other schools are probably in the same boat. We need to hear from you. We're trying to get this worked out as best we can, but we need you to participate in it. And Absolutely. That goes for parents and students as well. And I know it's confusing. I know it is. I mean, I don't think there's no blame to be had here for anybody. I don't think that's not what this is about. This is about, we're trying to get through this all together. So there's that. I
mean, this is something that's out of everybody's control, John.
Right.
This pandemic, and it's not like any of us asked for this. There's nobody to point fingers at,
Right.
And everybody is doing the best that they can. And I've heard Dr. Irucci say it before, and I think it's worth repeating. There is no manual for running a school district during a pandemic.
Right. And so we're doing the best we can with what we got now. Yeah. And on the good news, I mean, and this is one of the things we wanted to talk about, obviously with the superintendent, but also with anybody. We have things in place like Wellness Wednesday. Are you familiar with Wellness Wednesday?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's a great initiative.
Yeah. So basically, what we're saying is we want students and families in particular to take advantage of Wednesdays, not necessarily for academics as much as social skill building. Yeah.
That and emotional well-being.
Emotional well-being, yeah, and taking care of those kinds of things because we know we understand it's frustrating, and we're as frustrated as anybody. Everybody I know, from teachers to custodians. You name it, everybody is kind of up in arms about how to manage the rest of this year. And we still have a good 3.5 weeks to go right. and get through this. And, it's hard when things change really at the drop of a hat. We did get some information from the governor yesterday about, gradually reopening, the world as we know it. But I think the schools are going to be at the bottom of that list.
Yeah. It sounds like, obviously I think we can draw some conclusions from the fact that the governor did order schools to be closed for the remainder of the 2019-20
right.
school year.
Exactly.
And so, what does that, and I know there's a lot of discussion right now about what is the fall going to look like. And to me, my whole thought is let's not worry about the fall just yet.
Right.
Let's get through what we're faced with now. I talk to a lot of teachers, not just at Harding, but around the district.
Sure.
And I think the one thing that I hear the most is that all of our teachers miss their kids, miss their students.
Yeah.
And they miss that daily interaction and that being around one another, teaching those students. So, it's not, this isn't easy. Like I said, it's not easy it's not easy for anyone.
Right.
At all.
And a lot of empathy for the parents. I know I've talked to several parents and they're up in arms as much as anybody. And I've seen some posts that are a little disturbing, and talking to some of the principals about some of the comments they get. And again, I couldn't be more understanding of you being frustrated and upset. You're taking it out on the wrong people, Yeah.
And you're right there, John. I mean, we are as a district, we are doing the best that we can with, the information that we're given,
right.
And the situation that we're in. It's not, like I said, we're playing by rules that are being given to us.
And the rules are changing in real time.
Change. Yes.
And that's what I want people to understand more than anything, particularly the students. When we say, hey, we're going to do this, but then at a moment's notice that, parameter changes. And, okay, now we can't do that. So let's do something else. And I think that's what it's like trying to hit a moving target. As far as graduation goes, I've had several kids ask me, are we still doing the parade? Are we still doing that? And I don't know. I mean, have you heard any more information as far as?
We had some conversations this morning, and I know that there's going to be some more information coming out here over the course of the next couple of days, right, related to graduation. So, it's, like I said, it's not ideal. It's not what everybody, is used to. No matter what we do, it's not going to look like a typical graduation ceremony.
Right.
But at the end of the day, in my conversations with, the building leadership, the district leadership, I think, there's going to be additional efforts beyond just what we're talking about here with graduation,
right,
to recognize, this class of 2020 and these
right,
graduates.
And I want to stress that we are in a very unique situation because, I've heard, again, I've not eavesdropping, but I've heard other Zoom meetings and stuff from other districts and what they're doing. Well, Harding is probably 2 to 3 times bigger than some of those other schools. And for them to do something, doesn't translate logistically to what we could possibly do, just because
right,
of numbers. So you got to take that into consideration when you say, well, so-and-so, I know they're doing this in Colonel Crawford. I know they're doing this in Winford. I know they're doing this. And great, but you're not comparing the same things.
It's not an apples to apples.
It's
comparison.
not. And
when you're talking about a graduating class of less than 100 and
right,
versus one that's almost 300.
Yes.
And then you start taking into account that, let's say every one of our seniors has at least one family member or guest that would come to graduation. Now you're talking about 600 people.
Right.
Almost,
and that's minimum.
And
that's minimum.
Yeah. That's bare minimum.
Yeah.
You could be upwards of more than 2,000 people
easily,
depending on how many people come in, and not just families, but also
right,
from the community. So that's a big. It's a big challenge to manage, right, that large a crowd, and so like I said, it's not. None of this is going to be easy.
Right.
And I would hope and I would ask, that our families, our students, you guys have done a great job being patient and having understanding with us, from the first minute this started, and I would ask that you continue to have some of that patience and understanding and know that all of us, from Dr. Irusi down to, our custodians and our bus drivers, we all want nothing but the best,
right,
for you as, whether you're a preschool student or you're a senior, we want nothing but the best for you.
Right. Okay. The meal program is still going.
Yes.
I mean, again, those sites and times are available on our website.
That's correct.
So I'm sure most people probably already have that down as far as part of their routine. Anybody that's participating in that, I would imagine.
We've served, I don't know, this is an impressive number. As of before last week's meal distribution, last Wednesdays, we had served over 113,000 meals.
That's incredible.
To our families in the Marion community. And so, a lot of thanks needs to go out to our nutrition services department, Winnie Brewer, Vicky Wright, Becky Gillum, all the cooks, all of that staff. There's a lot of other staff members, custodians, bus drivers, folks who are helping pass those meals out. And so I think a lot of recognition needs to be given to them. And next Monday is School Lunch Hero Day. And so if you happen to be on the district's Facebook page, you'll see a post on there, encouraging folks to, say thank you to those folks who are giving out, who are distributing those meals. And it could be as easy as saying thank you, or it could be as big as making a poster and putting it on the side of your car as you go through the line. Those folks are putting themselves out there and are making sure that that as many of our students as possible are able to get the nutrition that they need during this time. And I just can't. 113,000 meals. Yeah,
that's incredible.
It's an awesome number.
Yeah. Okay. Open enrollment is going on now. We are anticipating opening the new year. You already mentioned, let's not worry about that so much as getting through the rest of this year.
Right.
But I think it's safe to say, and we kind of touched on this last week with Mrs. Musbach about, with this having happened, a lot of things are going to shift in terms of just the way we do school in general. I mean, I know there's everybody wants to get back to normal, but in terms of schools and mass gatherings and things like that, I think it's safe to say we're going to have this constantly in the back of our minds, and what that's going to look like. And a couple of things that I wanted to talk, particularly to the superintendent and just board members in general. I think the lacking thing, and this is not just Marion City Schools, I think this is across the board with public education, the infrastructure technology is lacking to handle this kind of a crisis. And I think that's something that really seriously needs to be addressed, statewide, probably nationally. And I'm sure you've probably heard conversations of this going on anyway, like having Chromebooks for everybody available. I think that kind of took us by storm, with the number of kids that either didn't have access or didn't have internet, and then being forced into this situation. I think that is going to be a paradigm shift throughout public education, where we are going to have to be at the ready for this to happen. Not this particular thing to happen again, but for something like this to happen again. And I think that's going to be taken into consideration going on, and even things like calamity days or snow days. This is going to be, I think, an answer to that in a way, or a takeaway that maybe we can address things. I know we've had blizzard bags in the past, but I mean, if we have better infrastructure in terms of the technology, there's going to be, well, I know some schools are going to blended learning where you're going to do part-time online and part-time face-to-face. All those things are going to be, I think, normalized.
Yeah, I think, it's going to be really interesting once we get back to some semblance of normalcy. Right. Because I think the normal that we all knew before the middle of March, it's not.
There is going to be a line of demarcation right there where, in 2020 in March, the world shifted and there's a new way of doing things now. And I think it doesn't have to all be bad either. Like I say, that might be a good thing to introduce more technology, more remote learning. I know there's maybe a pushback on some people's parts about, I don't want to do it that way. I understand you don't want to do it, but it's going to be another option. It's going to be another thing on the table, another tool in the toolbox that we didn't have before. So I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just a matter of we have to get into this world of streaming. And this is where you really come in, because this is what we were going to talk about originally.
Yep.
You talked about, you've been in marketing for a decade or so. As far as like streaming technology, what are your experiences in terms of streaming and stuff? It's relatively new to me. I mean, I've done it a little bit here and there, but not near the capacity that I'm doing now.
Right. And to see, I will, I've seen sort of your evolution of what you have, of what you've developed, and it's incredible to see that. As a guest, I can see your computer monitor back over, that you're looking at over there, which is awesome.
Yeah.
When I first started out doing live streaming, it was just very simply my laptop.
Right.
And, I would have somebody sit in front of my laptop and talk into the camera, and, they didn't have headphones on and that kind of thing. And I graduated, to a software program called Wirecast, which, is a pretty robust production suite.
Okay.
One camera, though, because the way that would work is you would have to bring the audio signal in from HDMI and then convert it so that it could go into, the MacBook. And so those converters aren't exactly the cheapest things in the world, as you've learned. Learned.
Yeah.
And
so you can only see a little segment of this, but yeah,
I would love to see more of it. Like this kind of stuff is exciting. And so I did that for about a year and a half, and now I've transitioned into all iOS devices. So iPhones, iPads, iPod, the little iPod Touch, and you can have up to 9 cameras at 9 different angles at one time. You can actually use a gimbal, a handheld gimbal, DJI Osmo Mobile 3, and you can actually control the pan and the tilt.
Sure.
Right. So it's your camera, normally what would be stationary.
Right.
Now from the iPad, I can control the left and right and the up and down movement of the gimbal, which is really, really cool. But, what I found is the biggest key to live streaming, and I think in watching, you develop what you've got now, the biggest key to live streaming isn't necessarily the video, it's the audio.
Sure.
It's the audio.
And I'll tell you, that was my biggest struggle was, because I'm running 5 inputs plus a mixer where I'm taking audio from your feed, my microphone, and the output of the heart of the system. And that was a bear to get that. Yeah. And I think now it's, from what I've run the last couple tests, it's pretty good. But when I first started, man, that was a mess. And part of it was a bug with the software that I had to convince the developers that, hey, this isn't right. And they finally agreed with me. But anyway, I digress.
So streaming, though, I think, being able to use, an iPhone or an iPod or an iPad, it's really made streaming to where you can be more mobile.
Right.
And that's something I think for your students who are in this program, which I'm going to tell you, when I was in high school some 20 years ago at UCyrus, we were lucky enough to have the Access channel. We were lucky to have the
not 20 years ago, though.
Maybe 25, right?
Yeah. Okay.
We had the local access station inside our high school.
Okay.
And so for me, that was a huge plus, because I was able to go in and learn a lot of video and audio production work. And so, what we have at Harding with your class is absolutely incredible, because, I've worked at, I've worked in a college TV station and radio station. For 3 years, I worked at WLIO, the NBC affiliate over in Lima. And, a lot of the stuff that you're showing your students is stuff, like green screening work and lighting and all that. That's out there. Yeah. And, I was actually able to get a first quarter internship in college with the NBC affiliate because of the work I did in high school. So I guess my message to your students and potential students is, look, if you're passionate about telecom, whether it be video production, audio production, live video, whatever it may be, dig in, learn as much as you can. And then, if you go out, and whether you go to a 2-year institution, a 4-year institution, or you want to go right out into the workforce, if you can shoot video steady, shoot a good stand-up, and edit a story quickly together, you will have potential to have a career in journalism and broadcast and telecom.
Right, and I always emphasize this as well. The management skills that are required to create things like workflow, the technical side of it, and just the social interaction that takes place with the telecom setup. These are life skills. These aren't just, it's not a box that right. You say, I'm just going to do video. And I've even had kids that have come back after having the program that necessarily didn't go into video production, but they said, all that stuff we did, I use that. When I was interviewing for a job, I used that. Changing the cadence of your voice, learning how to actively listen and conduct interviews and things like that. I mean, so these are real life skills that go beyond just video production. And Absolutely. That's why it's really hard to get kids interested in something that's really an intangible like that, or see it. And like I say, it's usually retroactive. Kids will go, "Oh, I see what he was doing," after they leave.
Always, hey, my dad was really smart after all.
Yeah. It's amazing how much smarter you get when you get older. You realize, oh, wow, I didn't know much, did I?
Absolutely. You hit it right on the head, John. I mean, there's so many life skills that the kids learn by being in this field. Yeah. And like I said, I feel like we have we have a lot of great programs, not just at Harding, but throughout our district.
Right.
And I think, our telecom program, and to me, we've tried to spotlight the work you've done since the middle of March,
right,
to get to where you're at, because this shows our community that our teachers are willing to think outside of the box even further than what they were originally asked to do something like what you've done. I mean, and your students should see, holy cow, Mr. Mullins is the skill set and it transcends even the classroom.
Yeah. Like I say, I hope they are picking up on some of these things, but I know right now there's so many things going on in their world right now that, school is probably not in the forefront of their mind in general, let alone, the classwork that I'm putting out there. But I do want them to be still participating and, like I say, learning and growing through all of this. And like I say, even though this is not the best situation to be in, there's a lot of takeaways that we can turn around and say, hey, I'm glad I did that. And, I talked to, Todd Schneider and Mrs. Musbach just last week when we were doing this interview. And, for me personally, and professionally, like you say, the turning on a dime, the parameters in which I'm operating and calibrating my home studio into a video studio, I'm going to take that away as a positive. I mean, it's a neat setup. I discovered some things, and that comes right. One of the other things we're going to talk about. The challenge in this field, I think, and really in any technology field, is the technology changes so rapidly that there is always, like you talked about the platform that you're using. I'm using a product called Fincast. And again, relatively new, but it was the closest thing I could find to a TriCaster that wasn't, a TriCaster, which is like a $4,000, piece of equipment. And, right. And it's doing a pretty decent job. It's a little glitchy. Part of that is, the learning curve with me as well. But, doing the split screen, doing the, I don't know if you can see Facebook right now, but we're literally streaming ABC's News Chiron at the bottom. Yeah. I have it streaming on my phone right now. Just kind of looking, watching to see if we got any questions coming in too. Right.
But no, like the product I'm using now is called Switcher Studio. Mm-hmm. And there are companies out there that have been built on that platform. that can go out and use, a handheld gimbal and a Ceremonic, microphone, wireless mic that hooks into the lightning port on the phone.
Right.
And you hit go live, and now all of a sudden, you can be live remotely from anywhere in the world as long as you've got data coverage.
Yeah, and that's changing so rapidly, particularly with 5G coming out. There was a time, I've been doing telecom now 14 years, and I've been teaching for 25, going on 26. But when I started, we were using VHS tapes, and it was non-linear editing. It was linear editing, and I had to switch everything over to digital, and that was a huge struggle to get everything. In fact, it probably took a good 2 years or so before we even got our first TriCaster, and so we're on our third one now, and honestly, the one we have now is outdated. They won't support it anymore, because I think it's like a computer. Every 2 years, it's a new generation. So and we've had the last TriCaster going on 4 or 5 years. So yeah, there's gonna be another leap. We just replaced our cameras. That was very unfortunate, because literally just got them when this happened. I think we had them up not even a week, and the kids were all jazzed up about it, because they're the Blackmagic studio cameras. I don't know if you're familiar with those.
Oh yeah,
they are
absolutely
sweet. Right now I'm using a Sony 4K AK33, I think it's called, which is a nice camera, but it's a consumer grade camera. But it does a nice job for what I'm doing. It's only like 4 feet away from me, and of course, the workflow for me, the hard part was getting everything within arm's reach, because in a real setup, in a telecom setup, and I know we're getting into inside baseball here, but the kids run the switch, the kids run the the teleprompter, and blah blah blah, and each person has a role. Well, I'm doing everything all at once, so I'm kind of juggling while you're talking and while I'm talking, and trying to make sure and troubleshoot as we go. So that part's a little overwhelming. And it is, I think I am doing, I like you say, you can do a live stream. And I tell this to my kids all the time. Getting back to my original point, there was a time when I wouldn't let them use their cell phones to do video, because they were terrible.
Yeah.
Well, that's changed. Most every camera that comes out now is doing HD quality video, as long as they shoot them in landscape, not portrait. That drives me absolutely nuts.
You and me both.
Yeah, but they're getting it.
And here's what I'll tell you. So I don't know if anybody saw the video that came out last week. I think it was the end of last week. That was the cap and gown pickup video.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just kind of a little highlight reel. Mm-hmm. So that entire video, aside from the opening aerial shot, was all shot on an iPhone 6.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, it's all incredible. HD, 1080p.
Are you familiar with Tony Orsina?
No.
Okay, Tony was a graduate from Harding. This was before I came to Telecom. But he graduated from the Telecom program, went into college and did video production. Then he's in Los Angeles now, and he's doing TV production, or he's an editor, and he was on Modern Family for several seasons.
I read his story. His story.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Well, that's Tony, and that's one of the things that, it's a kind of a roundabout way that he got there, but he got his start, in this program. Yeah, in this program. And
right.
Kaylee Bowers is going to be our guest, probably not this week, but next week. She's doing weather for a affiliate in, I think, Kentucky. She was in Lima, but has moved to Kentucky. So we've had several kids. Kyle Goings is going to be on. He's an alumni who just graduated from NYU Film School. So we have a lot of success stories out of this program.
Absolutely.
Even locally, Mark McGinnis, the guy that runs sound for the Palace, was a telecom guy and did some work for the government. He was actually the teleprompter guy when Joe Biden came to town a few years ago. When Joe Biden stopped at Harding for a rally, and he I think they're still there. YouTube videos you can look at it. He's setting up like stages and staging for like Obama, and Obama's standing like 10 feet away from him, So I mean, we've had a lot of success stories out of this program, and proud of it.
Yeah, and we all should be proud of it. Across the district, we've got a lot to be proud of in our district. And like I said, I know this is challenging, but there are a lot of teachers. All of our teachers and all of our staff they're making lemonade, man.
Right.
The coronavirus handed us a bunch of lemons, and we're all making lemonade. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
The cool thing though, let's get back on the video piece too. Mm-hmm. The other side to this too is I don't know if students really grasp the idea that, like you said, they don't necessarily have to go into broadcast journalism.
Right.
And what I do, there's a lot of video production that I do along with social media management and, writing and all of those things. And so that's another potential career path is actually, being a social media content creator.
Right.
Is being able to go out and say, hey, I can create social media content for you. Be an entrepreneur. You work for yourself and have clients that you go create content for. And the beautiful part about live video, and I don't care what anybody says, the beautiful part about live video is that it automatically records itself for you.
Okay.
No, because
sure.
What you're doing is you're creating an archive of content.
Right.
So you're doing it live, which you have the opportunity for real time interaction. That's a great part about it, but it also gives you that. Oh wow, David Johnston just said Steve Hicks was the video director of the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
that's really cool. Like I said, I'm watching the comments roll in.
Yeah.
But it's just the possibilities are absolutely endless with live streaming, and I would love to be able to do more of it, for our district. That's one of my goals being in the role that I'm in is to, do more live streaming. I would love to find I think it'd be cool is all get out to connect with alumni and do live alumni interviews with students.
Seeing Dave Johnson on here, he's one I want to get on here too, because he's got stories to tell. Look, I mean, we could go on for days with this stuff.
We could.
And I think that the takeaway for this, at least for my students, is, this is a process of learning that gives you skills that go beyond the classroom.
Absolutely.
And I think that, taking advantage of these things, I've seen other operations and having built this program, it's not even, if you go back, probably kids that graduated 5 years ago wouldn't recognize some of the technology that we're using now. I mean, that's how fast everything's changing. And so, it's one of those things that to learn a certain type of camera or to learn a certain type of casting device, that's great. It's going to change. And having that ability to evolve with the technology, much like what I did here with this, having, less than a week to put something together that I could get online and do remotely. It's out there and it can be done. And, but you have to be willing to adapt. And I think that's the takeaway. And even with this situation with the pandemic, you can extrapolate that out to that. Just keep rolling with it. I mean, yes, there's going to be bumps in the road and it's going to be frustrating at times, but as long as you're willing to adapt and evolve with the process, you'll be fine. Yeah.
It's, and I think, again, the older students aren't going to understand this until they're probably my age. But the ability, the things they're learning now, the ability to roll with the punches, the ability to go with the flow, that, life's not always going to be what you expect it to be.
If ever.
By no means, if ever, exactly. I mean, look, when we all came back from Christmas break, none of us ever envisioned that we would be talking about virtual anything when it comes to celebrations,
right.
For our students. And, yet not even a full, 4 months, 3.5 months after we got back from Christmas break, here we are.
Right.
We're being forced to do things in a much different way. And so, yeah, you know what, guys, the faster that the students, I think, the faster that they can learn that everything's going to change. And when it does change, the faster you adapt to that change.
Right.
Almost be a chameleon. You can adapt to whatever. The faster you learn to do that, the faster you're going.
And the more willing you're able to do it. I think that's
a key too.
I think that was the biggest problem I had, particularly when this all first happened. And I think you talk to any teacher, we were having problems with kids going to the online modules, turning in the work and stuff. And it was almost like there was a watershed moment, I think, when the governor came on and said, look, the schools are closed. Or not closed, online the rest of the year. And because I think so many kids were of a mindset that said, you know what, I'll just do it when we get back.
Yeah.
And once that domino fell that said, look, we're not going back. You got to get this, you got to do it. And now I've been having at least that's been my experience, that more and more kids are getting online, doing the work, communicating with me and letting me know, not all of them, and you know who you are, and I'm coming for you. But you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been great to watch, obviously what you've done, John, in transforming, your space into a studio is a little bit more visible than what we've seen, a lot of our other staff members transforming their homes, into just finding a work area. Like for my home, the only work area I have is my basement, which is where I'm at right now.
Same here.
And so I think our teachers, I can't say enough good things about our teachers, about our staff, because of how they, look, one day it was like, okay, here we go. We're going to close schools temporarily, middle of March, and you need to move to online learning, distance learning. And within 3 days after that announcement came down.
Well, technically we had 1 day to actually meet as a staff and say, you need 5 modules right now to get online. I mean, that was literally, we had Friday with kids and Monday no kids. Teachers, this is it. This is what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so to be able to do that, and then like I said, it took me probably a week to 10 days because I had to order stuff. I mean, I didn't.
Right.
And then, man, the real challenge was not being able to get back into the building. I had to actually coordinate with. I think it was one of the first Wednesdays that we had lunch program or distribution at Harding, that I was allowed to get back into the building so I could grab some cables and stuff. Because man, cables eat you alive when you start. The equipment's expensive, but when you need like 6 or 7 HDMI cables, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but that adds up fast.
A lot when you
add it all together, and it's like, holy crap! Not to mention all the converters and adapters that you need. Right. So anyway, and I had a lot of that stuff at school, so I was like, I need to get in. I need to get that. So, and I was able to get in and get that stuff. And like I said, I've been pretty happy so far with the way things have turned out. Gotten a lot of compliments from not just local people, but people that have seen the stream and seen the setup and stuff. So
and they're well deserving, John.
Well, I think
it looks great, and like you said, it took 24 hours for our teachers to get 5 modules ready to go. And I think they deserve a lot of praise. Across the district,
well,
everybody does.
One of my pet peeves is when, and I'm not insulted by it, because I understand where it's coming from, but I've had several people that aren't teachers. They say, "Oh, what do you think about your extended summer?" And I'm like, "You have no idea." I put more effort, I think, since the like I say, schools haven't closed, but since the building closed, it's been a lot of 24/7 type of work, trying to keep everything maintained and trying to get to a normal school day, or what I would consider a normal work day, like when they have us 9 to 3, I think, is their window. Mine is easily 7 to 4 or whatever. But anyway, sir, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, John, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
if you have any more information you want to share out, this is just another platform to do it. Okay. Just shoot me an email. We can set something up. But other than that, I think, unless you have something else, we'll wrap this up. Just again,
thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
And if you see Dr. Arusi, let him know that we were looking for him, but I understand,
Yep.
And hopefully we can hook up with him in the future, and get him on here. I know I had a few questions that were specifically for him from some of the kids, but we'll get to those. And,
okay.
In the meantime, have a great day, brother.
Thanks, you too, John. Take care, bud.
Okay, and that was Chris Stone from Marion City Schools Communication Director. Just a few things to wrap this up. Seniors, you need to contact Gear Up if you have any questions about your contacts with universities, scholarships, any of that kind of information. So make sure you're doing that. I've had a couple questions pop up here on my Facebook channel. So a lot of people shout outs. Hi, everybody. But a good question about, will we increase the nursing staff? And that's a good question. I don't have an answer for that, but that's something I could ask Dr. Arusi. I think what you're going to see is a lot of changes. I think you're going to see the world has shifted in terms of education, and there's no doubt. And I keep coming back to this as I think there are good things that are coming out of this situation that are going to stick around for a while. Remote learning is one of them. I think, like what Alex Stafford is saying, he's asking about the nursing staff. I think you're going to see those kinds of things. And those aren't bad. That's not a bad thing at all, to increase our nursing staff or have more remote learning, have more options on the table in terms of tools of how we react to education and issues that come along. So, could we change? I mean, would I want to change things? Not necessarily. I mean, I think human nature is to keep things as normal as possible, or as routine and consistent as possible. But every once in a while, life throws you a curveball, and you have to adapt and change. And through that evolution, some good things can come out of it. So, I'm not trying to sing the praises of being in this situation, but at the same time, I think we need to look at the bright side of things and look for the positives and not the negatives. And so, having said all that, I'm going to sign off here. I know the governor's probably going to be coming on pretty soon. And again, you can watch these streams every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. I will archive them right away to the YouTube channel. Students that are in telecom, part of your participation grade, your modules, whatever, all you really need to do is shoot me some information from the stream. Either, some of you did comment today, which I thank you for that, comment on the live stream, or watch it on YouTube, send me a Google Doc, send me some type of correspondence through email that lets me know you were watching it. Give me a comment, a question, and we'll try to answer them next time. Next Thursday, or day after tomorrow, we're going to have Kelly Garrett from the Gear Up office is going to be on, so she can talk some more about what she needs from the seniors in terms of preparing for graduation and the next level of your schooling, going into university and so on. And then I'm going to have a very special guest, a cartoonist, guest speaker, childhood friend, Earl Music, and that's just going to be a fun conversation. So make sure you tune in Thursday. We'll see you at 1 o'clock. Until then, have a great day, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off here.